a girl was washing her face. She suddenly felt something growing on her chin. She looked into the mirror and found that her mouth had turned into a chicken's beak. When she walked out of the room, she had completely transformed from a child into a chicken. Her family didn't recognize her, and they placed her with the other hens. The reason she became like this was because she did something a child should never do. She accepted a candy handed to her by a witch. Half a century passed quickly. People thought the witch had disappeared. But one day, when a boy named Jerry was shopping with his grandmother, they encountered a strange woman behind the supermarket. She was wearing a headscarf on her face and long gloves on her hands. Jerry was scared by the bugs on her hands. Fortunately, at a critical moment, his grandmother shouted. By the time he regained his senses, the woman had disappeared into thin air. After returning home, Jerry couldn't help but tell his grandmother about the encounter. When his grandmother heard this, her face immediately darkened, because she knew that woman was the legendary witch. Once they have their eyes on you, they will follow you forever. For Safid's sake, his grandmother contacted a distant relative, and they moved to a hotel in Alabama overnight. Just as they had settled in, a group of strangely dressed women followed them in, and they were the notorious witches. That night his grandmother told Jerry the story of the witches. They were usually easy to recognize. The most obvious sign was their mouth corners, that extended all the way to their earlobes. Real witches always wore gloves, because they didn't have hands, only claws. And all witches had bald heads like eggs. Their sense of smell was extremely sharp. They hated children the most. While his grandmother was talking, a black cat was eavesdropping outside the window. It relayed their conversation to the witches downstairs. The next morning after breakfast, Jerry wandered around the hotel alone. He sneaked into the banquet hall, planning to train his pet there. Just then the witch suddenly entered. After the manager left, they collectively removed their disguises and started their meeting here.